All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Appreciate everybody who made time in their busy schedule to come down to South Windsor to celebrate a couple of great victories in this past legislative session. We're standing here in some of the finest soils in the world to talk about agriculture in the state of Connecticut and building from these deep historic roots, not only down from the King's Charter to the colonists, but obviously this land has been worked well before that, to talk about the future and how we look forward for agriculture in the state of Connecticut. So we're celebrating two bills that build on the Lamont administration's track record of supporting agriculture in our state with smart investment and unlocking tools to make sure that farmers have access to these tools for the industry. We have a lot of speakers. Not everybody behind me is going to speak, but I have a feeling a lot of them will be. And they all have the right to, given the work that they've put in, talking to the legislators, making sure that people know how important agriculture is. So I'm going to ask all of us to be quick with our remarks to make sure that we can fit them all in and hear all the stories. To our friends in the media, I'm sure any of these folks behind me would be happy to do a pull-aside interview, so please take that opportunity. I'm sure some of the people in the crowd would be willing to do that as well. But to start us off, to welcome us to this land, I want to call up Louis Lipton of Pleasant View Farms. Louis is a fourth generation with his brother Jake running Pleasant View Farms. They operate out of Summers, but for over 100 plus years they've been on the forefront of thinking about agriculture and meeting the demand in the market where it is. So, Lou, come on up, please.
On behalf of all the farmers in Connecticut, I'd just like to welcome everybody here. Like Commissioner said, Louis Lipton, fourth generation farmer to operate Pleasant View Farms in Summers, Connecticut. We grow grain and hay and produce animal feed and sell back to local farms in the state. We work with a lot of farms in the state throughout our business. We actually are growing these soybeans here that you can see around us. So really appreciate what the governor and commissioner and senators and state reps have done for us here. Sometimes us farmers, we get caught up in doing the work and we don't have enough time to get out in front and share our needs and wants. But over the last couple of years, there's been some disasters and some hardships here in the River Valley with weather events and things, and just trying to go forward and find a new way to move forward. We have a lot of advantages here in Connecticut and a lot of disadvantages. You know, we have the population and the market for the produce and the food and the grain we grow. The disadvantage is that we have a 20 to 30% more higher cost of production to get that food to the public. So some of these bills and things are going to help, and they will give us encouragement to keep moving forward. And all of us love what we do. We want to keep going and keep it carried on for generations to come. But there is challenges that come with it, being in New England here with the cost of production and the risk involved, and the sizes of our farms. Some of us are from anywhere from 5 acres to 5,000 acres in the state, and it's just encouraging to see the politicians and the congressmen and governor putting an effort and pulling up their bootstraps and standing behind us. We really, really appreciate it. We welcome everybody here. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. Louis won't say this, but I'll acknowledge what he did. In 2023, many folks remember we had some historic flooding along the Connecticut River Valley. A couple of farms were pretty much wiped out. And Louis had some land down in the valley that wasn't impacted. And he called one of those farmers and said, why don't you get on this? I know you need it more than I do right now. That's the sort of sentiment, the sort of community of the people that we work with in this industry, and the uplifting that they do for each other. So thank you for doing that, Louis, and not only for that piece, but for all the other work you do for agriculture. Next up, we have the mayor of South Windsor to welcome us to, this is part of South Windsor. Not everybody thinks of South Windsor and thinks of this part of South Windsor, but this is the part I think of first, ironically. So Mayor, come on up.
All right, thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone here to South Windsor, especially Governor Lamont and Agricultural Commissioner Herbert. Welcome. I'm excited about the recent legislation passed by the General Assembly that supports agriculture across our state. It includes new state grants to preserve farmland and to help new farmers access land, something especially important here in South Windsor. The Department of Agriculture is also modernizing and expanding its programming to better serve farming communities. These changes give us practical tools to protect open space, support our local farmers, and preserve the rural character that defines South Windsor. If you go up and down Main Street, you will see how great it is. This is about more than policy. It's about investing in the future of our land and honoring the community values that help shape who we are. Again, welcome everyone to South Windsor. Again, Governor Lamont and Agricultural Commissioner Herbert. Thank you
very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the South Windsor does have a deep and rich agricultural heritage. I want to turn to one of our legislative champions. All legislative victories have a number of champions, co-sponsors, leads at the state legislature, but it usually starts with one legislator asking a question and starting the conversation. Senator Austin, as chair of the Rural Caucus, has paid a significant amount of time and energy focused on agriculture, and not only in her district, but across the state. And she started the conversation around the Connecticut Farm Bill with a very simple statement. I want to do something for farms this year. That's what she said. And Senator, with the passage of this bill, where'd you go? You certainly did a heck of a lot for farms this year. So please come on up and talk about the bill here.
So, good morning. I guess it's still morning. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here today. And I'm so excited to have this piece of legislation have a bill signing. Not every piece of legislation gets a bill signing, and the governor recognized how important agriculture was and how important the agricultural community is. It brings in billions of dollars of revenue to the state every single year and has thousands of jobs. It's so important. My parents ran a family business. We grew up in a little restaurant in eastern Connecticut, actually inside a bowling alley of all places, and people would come there just to eat. But we would buy our corn from Malurba's. We bought our eggs from right up the road at Petrowski's. We got our milk locally. We went down to Rossler's for our beef. So these were small businesses that provided the products that we needed to provide food for everyday people that would come to our restaurant. It is so important, and agriculture fills the base of all of those businesses, and always important for us to make sure. So what this bill does, and I have less than 2 minutes, and so I'm going to end with what this bill does is it provides a mechanism for dealing with the costs of agriculture, and that's really the basics of everything. We need to cover the costs to make sure that the costs are significant enough that we can drive down the costs, and if we can drive down those costs, it drives down the costs on the output end. So that was the whole goal here, and this was a dream that I had, and I'm so excited that my colleagues joined me, because any legislative victory is done with a team and with a group of people. It's never just one person. So I want to thank all my colleagues, and this was a bipartisan bill supported on both sides of the aisle. Everybody was excited to see it happen. I'm excited. Let's get this done and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Austin. Thank you for your leadership and for thinking about the challenges in agriculture and how to use your role in the legislature to address them. Next up, I want to invite Keith Bishop, Bishop's Orchard, and also the Vice President of the Connecticut Farm Bureau Association to come up. Bishop's Orchard recently transitioned their leadership to the 6th generation of the Bishops, and we have one of the members of that generation there to lead that operation. And we're fortunate that we have organizations like the Bishop's Orchard and the Bishop's family to be thinking about how to build from their legacy and provide a great future for additional jobs, providing great food and great experiences for their community. So Keith, please come on up.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to see everybody here, and on behalf of the Connecticut Farm Bureau Association and all the members and those in the legislature and otherwise that have helped to get to this point, it's a fantastic situation. Again, I'm proud to have my next generation. 3 of my 4 children are full-time on the farm now. We're 6 generations strong. We're about 40 miles due south of here, and I think that's south as I oriented, and a whole different microclimate from what it is here, and that's one of the challenges in Connecticut is our environmental concerns. This bill provides significant provisions for agricultural drones, positioning drone technology for critical components for our connected agriculture. Many other states have adopted this already. This is forward thinking on our behalf here in Connecticut to use drones by licensed FAA pilots and Connecticut pesticide applicator licensed persons to do seeding, fertilizing, and spraying of crops. This innovation offers us positive environmental impacts and will help farmers overcome multiple existing hurdles, such as reducing spraying schedules and volumes, covering hard-to-reach areas, operating after rainfall and wet conditions, and decreasing soil compaction by reducing tractor use.
That's our drone, by the way. It's friendly.
I almost was going to bring mine. I am a licensed pilot, but Bradley is right nearby, and one of the rules is being aware of where you fly and what the rules are. So on behalf, I just want to say on the drone piece of it, that's my part. There's many parts of this that will positively impact us, and it's not about what is happening this year. It's about the decades to come and laying the continued groundwork to support agriculture and not to lose farmland in the Connecticut. Farmland preservation development and other families that are preserving land is really critical to the future of Connecticut agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. And Keith has been talking to us about drones and the opportunity for drones for at least a good 18, 24 months now. And we think about attracting the next generation of individuals into agriculture. We can tell that the individual, the child who likes to play video games, you can run a drone and be a farmer. I mean, think about how that expands the net that we're casting and attract people with different skill sets into this industry. From southeast and central Connecticut, we're going to turn to the hills of northwestern Connecticut. Representative Horn is the House co-chair of the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee. She learned about the investment tax credit from one of her constituents, who we'll hear from later today, but took to this and understood the importance that it could have and the impact it could have on not only her constituents, but for farmers across the state. So Representative Horn, please come on up.
Thank you.
An extended applause.
Thank you. Give me time to walk up. Thank you. It's so nice to be here. I want to just first emphasize, so I do represent the northwest corner of Connecticut, many towns in that corner. And throughout my time in the legislature, I first want to emphasize the things that I have learned from the farmers in my district. And the importance of sitting down with them and listening to them and reminding my colleagues. I do not need to remind the colleagues behind me, by the way. They are champions for agriculture. But when you sit down and listen to your point, farmers are, entrepreneurs. They are technical. It is, you name it, across the sciences, the social science, you name it, farmers are doing it. I don't need to tell you that. But when you sit down and spend time with them, you will learn that, and you will learn the many ways that you can provide support for the farmers in your neighborhood and across the state and across the country, and the things that they need in order to succeed. And of course, the bottom line thing that, we need you to feed us. So we really want you to succeed. Farms are a big part of the culture of the community that I represent as well. And so I'm really proud to have been part of this coalition fighting for what we've achieved today. And then I wanted one little anecdote, which is that in the Finance Committee, we had 2 pieces of this, the Farm Investment Tax Credit and the increase for the Farm Machinery Property Tax Credit. And the day we held the public hearing on those, that hearing went for a long time. You know why? Because, first of all, you all showed up to testify, and everyone on the Finance Committee wanted to be part of that. And that's a really important part of the process. We had a lot of owners of that legislation, which made me know that we'd be able to pull it across the finish line. So thanks to all of you behind me, and I'm really glad to be here to celebrate this today. Thanks for listening.
One of those constituents who takes time to sit down with legislators is our next speaker, and that's Cricket Jack here of Laurel Brook. When I call Cricket, I never know where he'll be. Cricket could be at a boardroom at Agrimark. He could be walking the halls of USDA or Congress advocating for farmers, or he could be in a barn on the farm. But I do know that if he doesn't pick up right away, he texts me and says, I'll get back to you in a minute when I've got a free second. Cricket's a tremendous advocate and leader for agriculture, not only in the state of Connecticut, but across the nation. So Cricket's going to come up and share a couple thoughts as to what this bill means for him and his operation. Come on up, Cricket.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of insights, I think, for the investment tax credit impact that it will have for all of agriculture. Folks, what I'm about to say is something I truly mean. It's something that is so powerful. I think the investment tax credit portion is the most pivotal piece of legislation brought forward in my lifetime for all of agriculture. I'm extremely proud of that. For specifically for dairy alone, the capital investments that we have in our businesses only encourages us to stay here within Connecticut. We need to differentiate ourselves from the rest. We need to build our toolbox with those tools that allow us to be here so that we have generations that we can pass our farms on to. This capital investments that we have at our farms will only drive larger economic output for the state, and it will encourage jobs, participation. It will, in the dairy industry, create that more secure food supply that we talk about, that local food supply, and make sure that when you go to the grocery shelves, we have food on that shelf every single day. And as a dairy farmer, feeding you 3 times a day, this investment tax credit piece is a critical portion of keeping dairy alive in all of agriculture. And as I think about in a bigger context of what this means, Connecticut is just truly driving change. Okay, remember, our neighbors are always looking at us of what we do and how do we maintain agriculture as so viable, driving that economic impact, that billions and billions of dollars that agriculture brings. We need that toolbox full, and when you unite, when you bring people together and you have real conversations and you work across the aisle, the success and bills like this are tremendous pieces of work that we're going to look back to and reflect over time and say pivotal and meaningful change here in Connecticut. I want to thank the commissioner. I want to thank our governor here for signing, our legislative leaders, and our dairy community for coming together for one of the boldest moves I think Connecticut has done in a long time. Thank you.
Well said, Cricket. And New York has an investment tax credit, and it's generated billions of dollars of economic activity. Our ag industry is obviously a little bit smaller than New York's, but it's still a huge opportunity for farms to make smart investments in their future in the state of Connecticut. Our next speaker is Senator Cohen, who's been a close friend to agriculture during her tenure in the state Senate. She chaired the Environment Committee for a number of terms and listened to the needs of agriculture, Connecticut's farmers, and new and beginning farmers. But she also listens to farmers in her district and has gone out on a number of tours to hear their perspective. And when one of her farms drives a tractor to Washington, D.C. To advocate for change, she picked up on that. So, Senator Cohen, I would like to call you up and talk about the disaster relief program here.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. It's so great to be here, and I'm so glad to be here with so many champions for agriculture across the state of Connecticut. It's impossible coming from the 12th State Senate District, which is sort of mid-shoreline and just north of that, and as I'm driving up to South Windsor, driving through Guilford, of course, North Branford, Northford, Middlefield, Rockfall, these areas so rich in agricultural history and tradition, and passing these farms, thinking about the origins of this bill and the significance of this bill for not just the agricultural community, the farmers that will be so positively impacted by this, but for the larger Connecticut community at a time when agriculture is really coming under attack from our federal administration, certainly from climate change and extreme weather events, certainly from rising prices and inflation. So this is an important time for us to take charge and recognize the importance of agriculture in the state of Connecticut and recognize that we can step up and make positive impact for this community. And that's exactly what this bill has done. As Commissioner Hurlburt mentioned, it was last summer there was a significant weather event in my district, and I found out that Chickarella Farms, run by Willie Della Camera, who's here today, had been severely impacted by a hailstorm. Took out his entire crop, and that was huge, significant. I called Willie right away, said, what can we do? And, we were working with the federal administration, but it turned out there were significant gaps in what we were able to do, particularly at the federal level. These farmers paying into insurance, but never being able to recoup what the losses truly were amounting to, whether it be an extreme weather event or something else like an infestation taking out crops. And so my first call was to Commissioner Hurlburt, saying, what can we do to help, who was instrumental in sort of helping form this piece of legislation, this piece of the bill, this crop loss grant. And then, of course, I called Senator Austin, who has been a champion for farmers and agriculture across the state. And we put our heads together with Representative Candelora. We've mentioned several times this is a bipartisan piece of legislation, and we knew we wanted to do something. We knew Connecticut needed to step up in these extreme weather event cases. And so we've done just that in this bill. I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Not only was this component of the bill from the 12th Senate District, but it was the result of farmers like Keith Bishop and his family coming forward and saying, hey, this is what we need. It was the result of this collaboration with all of my colleagues behind us and making sure with Commissioner Hurlburt that this is a direction that we could, in fact, take as the state of Connecticut. We are so lucky to have a governor that recognizes the importance of agriculture in this state, recognizes the jobs it provides, and recognizes, most of all, the food it provides to our communities. So thank you all, because we all played a part in making this happen, bringing it over the finish line. There's still a lot more to be done, but I'm so proud of the Connecticut Farm Bill that we will be signing today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. Thank you for your leadership and for your attention to agriculture across the state. At this point, we're going to pivot from the Connecticut Farm Bill to the bill that I call the Land Access Bill. With some of the highest land values in the nation, finding land to farm is a struggle, especially for new and beginning farmers. Over the past few years, Representative Gresko has recognized this challenge and leaned into it. He's championed this bill to ensure that DOAG has a full toolbox to make sure that we can have access and affordability for farmers across the state, working with partners to open up that land and make sure that it's affordable and accessible. So Representative Gresko, please come on up.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, everybody that took the time to come here today. It's nice to be part of a winning team. And I was saying, coming down the road in here today, you break through the trees, and the first thing that I thought of was, yeah, this is pretty authentic, I'll tell you. And having never, unfortunately, been here before, but referencing Representative Horn's public hearing, I sat in the audience, and Jamie Jones and Mr. Bishop and Mr. Edwards were there testifying for quite a long time, and we kind of gave them the moniker of the Three Kings. They were there that day, and they were holding court with the rest of us. So it was much appreciated that it was successful. I try to put myself into some of the advocates' positions, in this instance, the farming community, and they come up to Hartford and they propose bills and they advocate for bills, and then the end of session happens and it's not successful, and I'm sure they must have private conversations and say what they will say about the legislature. But this time, the planets aligned and they caught our attention, and they have the relationships. And I think this was a very good year for agriculture, specifically, as the commissioner was saying, for at least the option to purchase at agriculture value had been languishing for years at the Capitol, and so I said to the commissioner, let's have an off-session working group to see if we can hash through this, and we did. It was DOAG and Farm Bureau and Working Lands Alliance. Chelsea made a cameo. Where is she? Oh, she's right here in front of me. Made a cameo to come back for the bill signing, but was instrumental in working through all of this. And then, lo and behold, there was funding that was allocated. Thank you, Senator and Representative Horn, for the funding to fuel this. But like I said, it's nice to see the efforts come to fruition, and hopefully not only the big guys but the small farmers will be able to take advantage of this going forward, and just admiring the tobacco leaf behind us. It's nice when like I said, a plan comes together. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Representative Gresco, and thank you for sticking to it. A lot of times an issue pops up, an individual legislator can pay attention to it for 3 or 6 months, but Representative Gresco, as he said, not only tried to work through this last session, but to put together a working group over the summer to make sure we were prepared this session. Our last guest speaker is Robert Chang of Echo Farms. Robert's been a steady and effective advocate and partner to the department and the industry to pursue positive changes to increase access and affordability for Connecticut farmers to have an opportunity to join this industry. He's a person whose expertise I rely on, whose thoughtfulness is always helpful, and whose approach is one that is bringing people together to make sure that we get something done over the finish line. So, Robert, please come on up and share your thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I want to thank the governor and the legislature for their work in bringing this to the finish line. But I also want to especially thank my fellow farmers and service providers, industry leaders and advocates, folks at the Working Lands Alliance and the Farmland Preservation Advisory Bureau and others who have really worked really hard over the last several years to move this idea, move this bill forward. So I want to first of all thank all of you for all of your hard work. Over the last several years, we've learned a lot of hard lessons about resiliency and security in our food system. I think we all have a much greater awareness of the brittle nature of our supply, of the abundance that we expect from our supply chain, especially in our food system. And my fellow farmers here in Connecticut, we are working heroically to raise a crop and offer the best quality produce to the state. We face enormous challenges from all sides, including our new normal of extreme weather events. The bad news is that, every year we lose prime agricultural soils, like what we're standing on today, to non-farm uses. The average age of a farmer in Connecticut continues to rise. The good news is that 30% of the farmers in our state are new and beginning farmers. And we have made great strides in creating a great learning environment for these farmers to hone their craft. Unfortunately, land access continues to be a chief obstacle for their success. And Connecticut is not unique in having having prohibitively expensive farmland in the country. This bill represents a significant investment in addressing that issue. It is not going to be a silver bullet that solves all of our problems. But we are certainly grateful for the legislature and for everybody in the community coming together to push this forward. If Connecticut is going to have a vibrant farm industry in the future, we are going to need to have anybody who has the knowledge, the skill, the passion, and the drive to farm to have the opportunity to be successful in the state. And again, I'd just like to thank everybody who's here who's made that possible.
Thank you, Robert. And you can see why he's a guy I call for advice in thinking through the challenges that we have. I also want to acknowledge that we've had a number of speakers behind us from the legislature. We had 186 yes votes in the legislature between these bills. So there was a lot of positive energy. We're not going to have all 186 of them speak today, but I want to acknowledge that it was bipartisan, that it was overwhelmingly supported. I want to specifically thank Senator Lopes and Representative Parker, who couldn't be here today, the co-chairs of the Environment Committee, for making sure that this did get across the finish line. We've got a lot of people who are in the audience and behind me who haven't had a chance to speak, who testified, who sent an email to the legislators, organizations who met with legislators and advocated for these proposals, whether it be specific individual proposals or for a comprehensive approach. And we need to thank them all. The last speaker we have doesn't need much of an introduction, but I have an obligation to provide it. Today's celebration marks the latest victories in agriculture during the Lamont administration. Under Governor Lamont, we've invested tens of millions of dollars in farms, families, and food across the state. This includes nearly $10 million in COVID relief funds, $7 million in climate-smart agriculture and forestry, $7 million in farmland restoration, $10 million in farmland preservation. Not only that, but we've also invested millions of dollars in the Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids Farm to School program. We've also increased participation in our Farmers Market Nutrition program. Last year, we had the best year for redemption that the program has ever had, breaking $1 million in redemptions. That's seniors and families that have access to Connecticut Grown product that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. We've put more money and retooled that program to be more effective. And of course, SNAP doubling to make sure that those families who have limited incomes and limited budgets for great food have access to that. So Governor, thank you so much for your continued commitment to agriculture. It's your turn to speak.
Well, thanks, Brian. This was really, not a lot is bipartisan in our world, and this was really strong because we love each and every one of you and what you do and what you mean for the state of Connecticut. I think you heard from Robert and Joe that we're doing everything we can to preserve more open space, preserve more farmland, make sure that farmland is there not just for your generation, but for generations to come. And we preserved about 20,000 acres over the last 6 or 7 years, and we're just getting started, hopefully making your life a little bit easier. You know, you heard from Christine talking about some of the real weather-related emergencies that Willie and Lou and others have had to go through. And just through emergency relief in little ways that we can make life a little easier for you, because I know it's getting tougher and tougher every day. You heard from Peg Leg Horn over here and Christine about investment tax credits and property tax relief. Again, little ways that we can make your life a little more affordable and doable. But the real reason we're here and what these bills are about is saying we love you and we know how much you mean to the state of Connecticut. As Brian said, boy, did I get a wake-up call during the worst of COVID when cars were lined up for miles at Rentschler Field and people didn't know where their next meal was going to come from, and everybody was talking about supply chain, and thank God we had you here, and we could provide fresh food for people who needed it across the board. And I see that now with food share, and there's some federal cutbacks there trying to help out people. Brian mentioned the SNAP program. I love the SNAP program. I love the fact that people can take their nutrition assistance monies, go down to a farmer's market in downtown Hartford, and double up on that and get Connecticut-grown fresh produce and what it means for each and every one of them. I love it because, I don't know, I kind of like your office here. It's very I know it's not always peaceful, but it's a breath of fresh air for us today. And but really, from the bottom of my heart, I want you to thank the people behind me on both sides of the aisle. What each and every one of them mean. We're here every day. I know how sudden it is. Man, I was here. Remember, Brian? And it was a drought in the Connecticut River, and then the next day everything is 2 feet underwater and waiting for the federal government to come forward. Oh boy, that was a long wait. We're trying everything we can to make your life a little bit easier. Thank God for everything you do on behalf of the people of Connecticut. Thank you.
Well, that concludes our formal speaking program, and now we've got to get to the business of why we're here, to actually sign a couple bills. So, Governor, if you want to take a seat, we can get through. We've got a couple versions of PA 25-152, the Connecticut Farm Bill, and then a couple bills to sign for 141, which is the Land Access Bill.
Who gets that?
This one goes to Representative Bresco.
Who gets our $1.79 pen?
Representative Bresco.
That's you. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Robert. Senator Austin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've got to take one of these for people.
Okay, great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Good job.
Yeah.